with, okay, the title is It's Just Not Cricket, the case of ethics, integrity, organizational structure, and within a national sport governing body. To start, just a little bit of background about the sport of cricket in Australia. It's clearly, by the article, super important to pretty much all Australians. It's held at a very high regard, and they said it was a benchmark nation for the play hard and fair idea, I guess. So basically, they have always been pretty fair in games and play hard and, I guess, stick to the rules in order to win instead of cheating. They said it was a national sport, well, the national sport of Australia, it's said to be, and it's embedded in their identity. The Cricket Australia organization is like the main contributor in like all of cricket in Australia. They kind of run everything, and they say they hold all of their athletes and management to very high moral standards. They also said they had 3 key values, which were how they play, the spirit of the game, and then the integrity of the game, and that's what they are focused on. Their philosophy is that they want the sport to have a purpose to inspire everyone. And the title of our article, It's Not Just Cricket, they mean that when they say that something is unfair, because in the spirit of the cricket sport, everything is fair, and it's always said to be that way. So when they say something is not cricket, they just mean it's not fair, it's not what it's supposed to be. So Patrick Murphy is like the main character, I guess, in the story. It's not really, I guess it is a story, but it's all about him and his job. He took a position as the integrity manager at Cricket Australia. He was born in Australia and raised there, so he knew how important the sport of cricket was to everyone there. He worked at Tennis Australia and the Australian Grand Prix Corporation. He helped rebuild their public image and improve their organizational culture. So basically, he just went in and like fixed everything, made them look like they had a good name and looked good to the public. He valued the fact in himself that he could organize an entire like culture in an organization and make them look good to external stakeholders. So Sandpaper-Gate was like the reason basically that CA hired Patrick Murphy. So what it was basically was 2 or 3 men on the Australian men's national cricket team were caught cheating in an international match. So the captain, Steve Smith, and the co-captain or vice captain, David Warner, basically, in my eyes, they kind of coerced Cameron into like going along with what they were planning. So he was like a younger member on the team, so he was like, I guess, trying to impress them. I'm not really sure, but basically they just came up with this master plan to tamper with the ball and make it harder, I guess, for the other team to succeed. So Cameron Bancroft took a piece of sandpaper and put it in his pocket during the match and scuffed up the ball, which they said altered its integrity. A media outlet or a news station that was there caught it all on camera, so everybody saw it, and it outraged everyone in Australia. So they were really mad about that, and it became a huge international scandal. So after this, the Cricket Australia organization, they decided they needed somebody to come in and like reform everything, make everything better, and get their public image brought back up into high moral standards instead of everyone thinking they're all cheaters. After he was hired, he did some research to figure out what exactly he needed to do to like better the program. So he basically found out that CA described itself as not just the governing authority for all forms of cricket in Australia, but also the custodians of the game. So basically what that meant was they didn't just run everything, they also cleaned up all their own messes. So anything that happened that was wrong or not in their standards, they also were the ones that decided what happened. So it was kind of like they controlled everything. He also discovered they had major staff reconstruction in February of 2018, so a month prior to him getting his job in March after the sandpaper scandal. They had a bunch of new positions and all these different hires that came about, and all of those members of the new positions weren't focused, or they were more focused on the playing of the game and how their team performed, the events they held, how they broadcasted it, digital and commercial events, public affairs and strategy and finance. None of them were focused on the ethical behavior and the culture of the organization. They were mainly focused on the game and how it was played. So after his research, Patrick's goal was to basically rebuild the reputation and build a strong ethical culture. So he was really ready to do that. He had done it before, and he can make everyone look good in his eyes. But then after his first meeting with the, the executive officer, the chief officer, he had this data integrity officer, sorry. He had this meeting with him, and he gave him all of these files that basically changed his whole idea of what he had to do. It was like way harder than he thought. So the first file was the integrity strategy of Cricket Australia. So the first one they said was to further protect Australian cricket from threats of doping, match fixing, and other activities that may undermine the integrity of its competitors in the game of cricket. The second one was they were responsible for overseeing CA's anti-corruption measures, code of behavior issues, and the CA's anti-doping and illicit substance program. So basically they had this integrity team to like control, making sure no one's doping, match fixing, undermining the integrity of the competitions. So that was their focus. It was focused on, again, the integrity of the games and the teams instead of the actual management and employees and everyone in the organization. So it was focused on the athletes and the games. He realized also that the CEO made all of the major decisions and exercised control over mainly all the programs, not just delivery. He controlled everything. Pretty much everything went through him. There wasn't like committees for certain things that they wanted to get done. It was all the CEO. So he saw that as an issue. The second file was about staffing. All of the decision making, again, was like at the senior management level. So the CEO, like his small group of people, no one like in this lower positions were able to make any decisions at all. They kind of just did what they were told. A lot of the paid staff opened up to Patrick about the lack of opportunity they felt at CA, so they didn't ever feel like they were considered enough for senior positions or promotions. They never got the opportunity to show their work skills. It was always kind of they said it was hard to get a better promotion. Everybody waited for years and years and years, and a lot of those positions, or all of them actually, you couldn't get unless they were opened up due to retirement or something. So it wasn't easy to get promoted and move up the chain. The third file was sex diversity in the workplace. So basically this whole issue was the ratio of males to females. There was significantly less females working there than males, and it was obvious that females were not treated fairly. They weren't given the same management positions or the same opportunities to work in higher positions. There was evidence of a staff member specifically threatening to be fired for asking off to have one day after her maternity leave for the week she has to work remotely, and she was denied blatantly and told that she was like trying to cause disruption in the workplace. There was also a very noticeable lack of diverse staff in the ranks. So basically, very little of their staff came from diverse backgrounds. They had who they wanted. Basically, it was like a white male privilege kind of situation. Like that's who was the highest positions, and everyone else below them, they kind of just stayed where they were. File 4 was player issues. So they said that the athlete is the core of the sport organization. So that's obviously where a lot of their employees come from, is after they get done with their playing careers, they work for CA, and it's kind of just like okay, well, if you play for here, you'll get a job eventually. It'll be your career the rest of your life. So past players took that as like they said it was past players after their career, the job at CA was their retirement policy. So they took advantage of their jobs, and they acted like they could do whatever they want, like they were still athletes and not actual working employees. They would use the sports and medical facilities on work time. They would socialize with the board members outside of work, just as friends, and hang out. They dressed casually at work and didn't carry forms of identification, so acted like they could just ran the place and everybody should know who they were. There was several harassment issues filed against some of the past players that worked there. They were passed off as tomfoolery when female employees were felt uncomfortable, or things that were said to them kind of were, inappropriate for workplace environments. And then sledging, which is like game talk and like, I don't know, what's it called? I don't know what the word is, but game talk was, they would talk that way during work, and that was just not appropriate for the workplace either. It made people feel uncomfortable. The last file was about interns. They had a really good sports management program for first year post-grad students. They were partnered with a local university to provide that, and it was like a nationally ranked program. But a lot of the interns were from international backgrounds. They came from other countries and places and different backgrounds to come to this program, and they were not paid enough for their effort. They put in a lot of work. They were asked to volunteer to work extra hours and not be paid for it. They kind of just felt like they were underappreciated, and they had lots of ideas and were willing to learn and do lots of things, and they never got those opportunities, kind of like most of the staff was saying too. So basically the main issues were the management team and how the CEO and everyone directly below him handled situations and what their focus was on. There were staffing concerns such as equal opportunity and the work conditions. There was diversity and gender discrimination issues. There was the CEO and other managers had a lack of flexibility and understanding for lower ranking staff. Past players would take advantage and behave unprofessionally, and interns and lower ranking staff were continuously mistreated. So basically, Patrick discovered there was a lot more to the puzzle than he thought. He was going to have to go over way more things than he was originally thinking. He was going to have a lot more work on his hands. He was planning on analyzing all of the organizational structure, ethical behaviors, power structures, all the other aspects that would influence the new strategies he would put in place. And then he also decided he would look at other sport organizations and how they built successful cultural standards and ethical behaviors. So in order to do all of the things he wanted to do, he's going to look at everyone else and see what worked for them and continue to research and find out more and more things about CEA in order to help them and build them a better public profile.
Excellent. Good deal.